Good afternoon and good evening. On the behalf of Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement, it gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished chair, fellow scholars and participants who have joined us through Zoom and are watching us live on YouTube. We are thrilled to have you here. And thank you for joining us today at International Young Scholars Summit 2020. This international forum brings together rigorous and erudite young scholars from all around the world over a single platform. The aim is to create an academic space to encourage young scholars and academicians from the field of international relations, political science, diplomacy, public policy, administration, and related fields. The conference will be held for 3 days consecutively through 30 sessions, with 2 parallel sessions running in the white room and the green room. The conference will feature 275 scholars from 25 different countries who will be delivering presentations and sharing their understanding with us. The session is streaming live on our YouTube channel, so please feel free to share it on your social media handle. This 7th session of the conference will be chaired and moderated by our Honorable Ms. Pooja Dahal, who's here with us today. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining us for this amazing session. We're extremely obliged. Pooja Dahal is a civil engineer specializing in hydropower and is backed by an MBA in management degree. She has been a junior engineer and a member of board for 13 years now. She has worked in various energy development projects and companies as both team leader and consultant. She was also managing director of the Makalu Development Project and a board member of United Insurance. She has been working with energy and has the first-hand experience of hydropower development, construction, monitoring, and supervision. Ma'am, we are extremely glad to have you on board with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a warm welcome from Nepal. Nepal, a country rich with water resources and a huge potential on clean energy development. Thank you, Nis, for giving this opportunity. It is my great pleasure to chair this session on energy with the great scholars around the world. Energy for sure is the basic for development of any nation, especially in the developing nation like ours. The need of reliable energy and affordable energy is essential. We are privileged to utilize this platform on sharing our views on such an important topic. With permission, may I start now?
Yes, please, ma'am. You are the chair. Please go ahead.
Our first presenter for the day is Nikolay Goryachev, if I'm spelling him correctly. Nikolay is a research fellow from Center of Global and Regional Studies. Today he will be presenting on LNG export from Russia and its impact on the energy security of Asia Pacific in post-COVID-19 era. Nikolay, the floor is for you.
Okay, greetings to everyone from Vladivostok, and I can share with you my presentation. The Asia Pacific region is developing rapidly, and the demand for energy resources in this region are constantly growing. It makes the region an important area of Russian LNG export policy. The main exporters of Russian liquefied natural gas are the Asia Pacific countries, namely China, South Korea, and Japan. In the past few years, the main geopolitical instrument for influencing Russia's energy project still is the diplomacy of sanctions. 2 of the 3 promising gas pipelines, Nord Stream 2 and Turkish Stream, are experiencing problems in this regard in Europe. These projects are subject to ongoing unilateral United States and economic sanctions. A well-known United States policy towards Russia and its partners brings us back to the question of the possibility of similar geopolitical problems for Asian countries. Japan and South Korea, 2 of 3 main importers of Russian liquid natural gas, are in military political alliance with the United States. And that can be a main problem. Due to Japan's dependence on energy imports, it used a purely economic approach to solving energy problems. No matter how the political and geopolitical situation in the world develops, pragmatic countries like Japan primarily look at the economics component. At the end of 2018, Russia's Novatek gas company signed a memorandum of understanding with Japan's Seibu Gas to use the Hibiki LNG terminal, which could reload cargo ships from Yamal plant via the Northern Sea Road. In June of 2019, the first LNG carrier arrived to Tobata terminal, located on the south of Japan. In September of 2019, Novatek Company and Mitsui OSK Lines Limited and Bank of Japan for International Cooperation signed a cooperation agreement. In accordance with that, the parties intend to organize joint implementation of projects for construction of LNG transshipment complexes in Kamchatka and the Murmansk region of Russia, including the acquisition of shares and the financing of these projects. Even at the meeting between Vladimir Putin and Shinzo Abe in early September of the Eastern Economic Forum 2019, liquefied natural gas was the main topic for the negotiations. And we have an opinion among Russian experts that the United States energy policy towards Japan, in any case, will be implemented very successfully. This concept based on two factors. First, Japan is the largest LNG consumer in the world. Second, the existence of allied relations between Japan and the United States in itself will stimulate the development of imports of American LNG to Japan. But in 2018, the main suppliers of LNG to Japan were Australia, Malaysia, Qatar, Russia, and Indonesia. The United States is not able to increase its share in the Japanese gas market. Why? Usually, American gas trading model seeks to reach a greatest benefit for United States. Therefore, gas primarily goes to those markets where the contract price is higher. In the case of the supply of American gas to Europe, this has already become a political matter. And suppliers to Europe already have more geopolitical than financial significance. At the same time, Novatek's activity could provoke the United States to impose sanctions on Russian gas supplies to Asian markets. A special role here played by the fact that Novatek's projects in Yamal Peninsula were built ahead of schedule. Novatek launched the second phase of the Yamal LNG plant 6 months earlier, and the third phase a year earlier. Initially, this construction was synchronized with the construction of ERC-7 ice-class tankers. And in July of 2020, gas from Yamal was delivered to Ogishima LNG terminal by the Vladimir Rusanov gas carrier. According to the Novatek, this is the first successful experience of shipment with an ice-class gas carrier to Japanese port, and which will increase the volume of LNG delivered to this country. And this can significantly increase competition between the United States and Russia in Asia and Japan first LNG market. The main geopolitical questions boils down to whether the Japanese leaders, especially after the Shinzo Abe resignment, has enough political will to prevent the external political dictatorship of the United States in their own gas market. The Republic of Korea is also limited to the issue of purchase of Russian gas. The main problem is the case of Korean Peninsula. The political leadership of South Korea in recent years has shown more independence in relation with its northern neighbor, DPRK. But the current level of relations between the Republic of Korea and DPRK does not allow talking about the implementation of projects for the supply of Russian energy to South Korea through pipelines or electricity lines. In matters of energy cooperation with Russia, South Korea depends on position of the United Nations sanctions. As long as there are United Nations Security Council sanctions against the DPRK is here, the development of infrastructure projects and pipelines are impossible. On the other hand, at present, the export potential of Russian LNG supplies to the Korean market is limited only by a lack of transporting. And only major player in Asia that has virtually no geopolitical risks in the development of energy cooperation with Russia is China. The launch of Power of Siberia gas pipeline in December of 2019 allowed both Russia and China to strengthen their energy security. Chinese considerations as a demand market include the diversification of supply contributing to greater energy security, while at the same time creating a degree of economic interdependence with Russia. The Power of Siberia helps to meet growing demand in the Chinese market, and is a step towards the internationalization of the RMB in global oil and gas trade. These factors are certainly not in conflict with Russian goals to diversifying its gas markets away from Europe and positioning itself as an important economic and political actor in Asia. Even the Chinese goal of internationalization of renminbi is supported by Russia, and it will be breaking the monopoly of oil trade in United States dollars. For the Russian side, Power of Siberia, of course, is an expensive project with minimal profitability. But for China, the benefits are obvious. With the launch of Power of Siberia, China received a stable source of gas supplies, almost independent of the international situation. LNG suppliers to China are completely dependent on shipping. And in case of third-party geopolitical pressure on suppliers like Qatar or Australia or other countries, or other difficulties like COVID pandemic, the Power of Siberia remains the only stable source of gas supplies. For Russia, hydrocarbon exports still remain an important part of energy and trade policies, and possible slowdown of the global economy in the long run will not have a major impact on energy consumption in Asia. Under these conditions, Russia has been and remains a reliable supplier of energy resources, which allows to solve the problems of the country's internal developments. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Nikolay. Our second speaker for the day is Ms. Tanya Kapoor. She is a PhD candidate from Jawaharlal Nehru University, India. And today she will be sharing her ideas on policy forward of energy rich and energy deficient countries. Tanya, now the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, NICE, for taking me in to present my paper titled as Concerted Progression, Guising Disconcerted, Regression, Policy Forwards of Energy-Rich and Energy-Deficient Countries. So I would deal with how energy-rich and energy-deficient countries, how they have an interlinked, competitive, unilateral interests vis-a-vis guiding their policy forwards, but how, on the other hand, they also have universally and collectively envisioned goals of sustainable development, energy and climate change policies, etc. So how they are trying to balance between the universally idealized goals of development versus their own independent, individual, unilateral energy security interests. So I would start off with El-Baradi's note on how he has observed that though there are international organizations for food affairs, health and hygiene, aviation and maritime affairs, but energy, which is the motor of development, is a glaring exception. We do not have an international organization catering to energy governance at the international sphere, wherein policy pursuits, trade negotiations, etc., energy development across the world, and energy access to all the populace around the world could take place. We do not have any international charter or an organization spanning international, around the world membership to participate in such an endeavor. So therefore, there is an anarchical situation which gets created as a result, wherein countries are let free and let loose to strive forward their unilateral national security interests, be it developing countries, developed countries, least developing countries, vis-a-vis their abundance or deficiency of naturally endowed energy resources. So how there is a constant discombobulation which is taking place, and how countries are striving forward in this vicious cycle of universalism versus unilateralism. So this competitive phase of interests are guided by energy producers' interests of spanning their influence around the world in diplomatic and political and even war stages, and how they always try to expand their international market and favor a reliance on fossil fuels so that they have more and more business and they are able to accumulate oil wealth. However, on the other hand, there are energy consumer countries which are energy deficient and energy insecure, and therefore they are able to get influenced rather than influencing more. And because of their insecurity and their continued dependence on fossil fuels and energy producing countries of conventional energy resources, how they are trying increasingly in the contemporaneous phase to hedge against their dependence on fossil fuels. So in fact, even history, several wars like Gulf War, Iran-Iraq War, Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, and then how external interventions of United States through its SEALs, that is sea and land forces, Norway, United Kingdom, Portugal, etc., how they have intervened to the sovereign affairs or the cross-border affairs of these countries, especially in the MENA region, how they try to sway decisions in their favor and cater to their national security interests, and how they try to create a diplomatic and political dependence on themselves as if they are the prime leaders guiding forward the policy negotiations, trade negotiations, and even how they are trying to moderate in wars and conflict affairs. So there have been phases in these wars wherein oil supply disruptions have taken place, trans-border gas pipelines have been destructed, then oil fields, oil terminals have been set ablaze, oil price wars have taken place, how a strategic oil ports, be it naval ports, airports, or seaports, how they are blocked by external interventions, and how oil smuggling and oil round tripping also takes place. So these are some of the geostrategic tactics that countries have played in their regional cross-border affairs, and even even if they are situated outside these continents, how they are trying to increase their sphere of influence, increase their sphere of international trade, and how and through what all means would they be able to supply oil or gas resources to the deficient countries. So for instance, some of the geostrategic tactics can be observed in the OPEC Plus deal of 2020, wherein Russia and Saudi Arabia were in a tussle situation vis-a-vis the set production quotas by the OPEC Plus group, how both the countries were reluctant to limit their quotas to the set production targets, fearing or having apprehensions that the other one would, have a dominance. If one is not there, the other one would be dominating the state of affairs as far as oil diplomacy is concerned, and as far as oil trade is concerned, oil and gas trade is concerned in the region. Another example would be the 31st G8 summit, wherein countries like United Kingdom had exchanged carbon footprints and credits in exchange for providing renewable energy, green technology to the developing Asian countries of, say, China, India, Singapore, etc. And another geostrategic intervention of Russia could be highlighted, for instance, in the Crimean crisis, wherein gas supplies were disrupted to the European Union. So on a whole, I would say that energy security is not a zero-sum game wherein one country's energy security is achievable only at the cost of the other country's energy security. But however, it is to be looked at a relative in a relative way, wherein a cycle exists between countries balancing their unilateral national interests while striving forward and collectively towards universal interests, which are the collective interests of sustainable development, goals of achieving affordable energy for all, through their guided geostrategic unilateral interests, how their national energy security interests would always guide forward their cooperative endeavors. So it is more or less a symbiotic and an interdependent relationship which exists between developing and developed countries and energy deficient and energy abundant countries. So this is what my paper is all about, how in the name of cooperation, how countries are at the back end pursuing their own unilateral national security interests. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for adding value and giving light on the relationship between the energy deficit and energy producing countries. Now,
Okay, I think we got disconnected. So let me welcome Meghna Rai Muralidharan. She's a research scholar at Jawaharlal Nehru University, India, and she will be speaking on China's strategy in Africa through the prism of energy diplomacy. So Meghna, your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me this opportunity to express my views on the topic, China's strategy in Africa through the prism of energy diplomacy. Yeah, so the format of my presentation will be I'll try to look at the salience of the theme, major research questions, analysis and interpretations, and the research findings. So the salience of the theme. So energy is considered to be one of the essential elements required for human development and national security. And a lot of countries these days are emphasizing on energy security. So vis-a-vis even India and China have been making efforts in the field of energy, and the growing economic growth or the projected economic growth indicates towards increasing energy demand. And a lot of countries are also trying to, in this regard, a lot of countries are diversifying their energy basket. And in this scenario, African continent has emerged as a major resource destination where a lot of countries are coming in and taking use or extracting the resources that is available in abundance in the African continent. So the African continent is of great potential with huge reserves of hydrocarbons and renewable energy resources. And also China and Africa have been cooperating in various sectors, and energy is considered as an important factor in the engagement, in the Chinese engagement with Africa. Major research questions. So I'll try to examine the energy resources in Africa, to examine China's energy requirement, and to assess Africa's significance and relevance, to analyze China-Africa energy cooperation, and to evaluate the challenges in China-Africa energy diplomacy and its prospects. So it's very important to know what Africa and why the African continent is so important. So energy resources in Africa, so around 3.5%, so coal constitutes 3.5% of the total energy or the coal that's available in Africa. Oil is around 7.5%, gas 7% of reserves of gas is found, solar is around 0.9%, and hydropower is around 2.6%. So moving to China's energy requirement. So a remarkable transition has been witnessed in China's energy sector, and a lot of transitions have been taking place. And with President Xi's call for energy revolution, where he has emphasized on reducing pollution and forming a service-based economic model. So if you see the energy mix of China, or most of the manufacturing based economy is solely fueled through coal, wherein around so from 1990 till 2018 there has been an increase, an upward increase in the consumption of coal, and China has been the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide and also largest consumer and producer of coal. So around the consumption of coal has increased from 0.9 billion to around 4.4 tons of coal. So 4.6. So, and it is said that, but however, attempts have been made by China to reduce the consumption of coal, and they have emphasized to bring down this number to below 58% by the end of 2020. Also, along with the coal, China has shown a huge reliance on hydrocarbons, especially it's the largest importer of natural gas, and the consumption of crude oil is also set to increase in the coming years. So the rapid analysis and interpretation. If you so the rapid economic development has is in tandem, or China's energy demand is in tandem with its economic development. Thereby, it has putting a lot of pressure on the domestic energy production. So, but if you compare China's domestic energy production, it is comparatively low than its consumption. So, in order to balance this high and low ratio, and anticipating that the demand for energy will increase, China has come up with an energy security strategy which is based on three pillars. One is to reduce its reliance on fossil fuels and to shift to more clean energy sector. Secondly is to increase its domestic energy production, and thirdly is to diversify its energy basket, thereby reducing its dependence on single region. And China's diplomats have been engaging across countries, engaging with countries across the globe, and especially Africa, as African continent is the first country or a continent that China began its contact with post its searching for an partnership. So if you see why Africa, if you see Africa's natural resources, there's huge deposits or huge amount of oil, crude oil, natural gas, and a lot of other natural resources that are present across the across the continent. Especially a lot of these resources are still untapped, and there is a prediction that a future or a resource politics is highly possible in the African continent. So China and Africa have been cooperating in the field of energy, and China's energy diplomacy in Africa is seen as China's quest for oil. And it is said that the availability, that China's engagement with Africa is like China is engaging with Africa to fulfill its energy or to improve its economic development. So if you see this chart here, you'll see that around 33% around 33% of Chinese engagement is in the field of energy, which shows that energy is a very important component in the component in China-Africa engagement. And Africa in the last few decades has become the second largest exporter of oil to China. So around, and African oil constitutes 25% of around China, Africa accounts for more than 25% of the total oil and gas that's imported to China. So if you see, so the oil imports from Africa has increased, and of the 15 top countries that imports oil, that China imports oil from, the three top are the African ones, which is Angola, Libya, and Libya and the DRC. And especially Angola is the largest exporter of oil. And even with the China has been engaging with a lot of African rich countries, and the Chinese private Chinese firms have also been engaging tremendously with, and imbibing these African countries into its vast energy security strategy. And there are some companies such as Sinpec, China Oil and Natural Gas Exploration firms, which are quite active in different parts of the continent. And it's also predicted that there increased production volumes from Africa from the Chinese NOCs are expected due to the ramping of the Igna field in Nigeria. And the production is also expected to reach a peak that's around 200,000 barrels of crude oil per day is expected to achieve. So if you see the cooperation between China and Africa is mostly in the field of hydrocarbons and less in the clean energy sector. So a possible cooperation in the clean energy sector will create a win-win situation for both, mainly because a lot of African countries are still dependent on fossil fuels, but vis-a-vis China is also trying to portray itself as a leader of climate diplomacy and policy. So a cooperation in the clean energy sector will help China emerge as a leader of global governance or climate governance, and the sustainable or the infrastructure development will help Africa in sustaining energy and in answer and in countering the challenge of energy poverty that exists in the continent. However, there are certain challenges that impact the relationship between China and Africa, mainly like the West. The Gulf of Guinea is also considered as the Gulf of Guinea is considered as of geostrategic importance by China, like the West. But and most of trade takes place through sea. But piracy is a major piracy is a I'm sorry. Piracy is a major challenge for the countries. Challenge for a lot of countries across the Gulf of Guinea. How China will counter the security challenge is a big question. Also, though a lot of Chinese oil companies are expanding and have been quite active in the African continent, the international or the Western oil companies are still dominating and they have been quite both are still dominating, and they are quite maybe in terms of asset holding or production and so on. Post COVID-19, it's a challenge to see that whether the COVID-19 or the pandemic will have an impact in this cooperation. Definitely it might have an impact, but the impact will be a short-term one, and will have a short-term impact on energy cooperation also. And why I say that energy is important is because China has very well used the energy component in engaging itself with the African continent. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Meghna, for this detailed presentation on China's energy diplomacy in Africa. As you rightly said, Africa is a continent full of potential on energy. May it be clean energy or may it be fossil energy. And its association with China, one of the largest power consumer of the world, will for sure be helping Australian continent for its economic activities as well as this carbon trading and other opportunities. Thank you so much. So our next presenter for the day is Sidra Altaf, a graduate from Central University of Kashmir, India, and talking on China's energy security conundrum. Sidra, now, may I request you to start, please?
Thank you, Chair. My the title for my presentation today is China's Energy Security Conundrum. The ever-growing energy demand due to its high consumption is an area of grave concern for China. With the domestic sources almost stripped, China had to start importing oil to meet its energy requirements since 1993. In such a scenario, China depends extensively on oil imports from countries via the Malacca Strait, one of the major and the busiest waterways in the world today. About one-third of global trade and 35% of oil from the Middle East toward China, Japan, South Korea, and the Pacific Rim is being carried through this strait alone. According to CSIS China Power, an estimated $3.4 trillion in trade passed through the South China Sea in 2016. As far as China is concerned, an estimated 70 to 80% of China's energy imports are conveyed through this route. The China Youth Daily on 15 June 2004 summarized the importance of Strait of Malacca as, quote, "It is no exaggeration to say that whoever controls the Strait of Malacca will also have a stranglehold on the energy route of China," end quote, which remains relevant even today. For China, however, the problem arises from the fact that it has no jurisdiction over the area. The region is a hotspot for piracy and is of great interest to major economies and naval powers such as the USA, which has the potential to cause interference in the area, resulting in what is termed as an energy encirclement. In 2003, China's former president Hu Jintao coined the term Malacca dilemma to refer to this area of concern for China. China has two possible options to solve its dilemma, that is, either finding new trading partners or searching new routes for trading, thereby completely bypassing the straits. Of the two viable options that China has in order to decrease its dependence on Malacca Straits, diversifying its trading partners to include Russia and Kazakhstan has already been set in motion. Both are able to trade with China via land routes. With the development of Russia's East Siberian field and the accompanying East Siberian Pacific Ocean pipeline, the prospects of import have improved for China. Similarly, in terms of finding new routes, China's IBR initiative, with its components such as the Trans-Myanmar oil pipeline, coupled with the natural gas, enables it to import oil from the Middle East through Myanmar. The Myanmar-Yunnan pipeline is significant in this regard. Subsequently, in Pakistan as well, China is working to connect Pakistani coast to Xinjiang. In addition to this, the proposed Kra Canal in Thailand would allow China passage north of the Straits of Malacca. However, cooperation with Malaysia and Indonesia would be far more helpful to China, as by bringing the two states into its fold, China would be able to conduct trade with lesser risk. With respect to the two states, both have received significant funding from China, which could result in potential cooperation that would be beneficial to China in order to advance its motives in the long run. Whereas Indonesia has been a willing partner to China, Malaysia fears that it will be indebted to China, and this could prove to be detrimental to its sovereignty. At home, China has the capacity to hold about 160 million barrels, which was proposed to be raised to 500 million barrels by 2020. Consecutively, according to Economic Times, dated April 20, 2020, China almost doubled the rate at which it put oil into storage in the first quarter of 2020 in order to deal with the loss of consumption, as the coronavirus caused much of the country to be placed in some form of lockdown. In terms of security, China launched the Blue Water Navy strategy in 1987, which was a measure to counter the US naval presence and to mitigate any security concerns arising in the area and to safeguard its SLOCs. However, presently a challenge that China is facing is the resurgence of the Core, which in realist terms is seen as an alliance aimed at forming an Asian arc of democracy to contain China. The Chinese Vice Foreign Minister had expressed this sentiment in September 2019 as, quote, "We are firmly against attempts to use the Indo-Pacific strategy as a tool to counter the BRI or even to contain China," end quote. With the rise of more conservative leaders in USA, India, and Australia, however, the Quad seems to be gaining momentum. Even though the PM of India in 2018 said, quote, "India does not see the Indo-Pacific region as a strategy or as a club of limited members, nor as a grouping that seeks to dominate. And by no means do we consider it as directed against any country, end quote. However, according to China, the recent developments seem to undermine these claims as well, because the growing Indo-USA proximity poses a threat to China's future. Quite recently, United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo as well called for deepening the bonds between democracies in a bid to what he called an alliance against an economic decoupling from Beijing. Subsequently, according to a report in Asia Times, July 27, 2020, the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier was joined by the USS Ronald Reagan in conducting drills with the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean. India has also invited Australia, which recently declared China's claims in the South China Sea as illegal, to the annual Malabar exercises. So in conclusion, we can say that with the growing tensions regarding China's Malacca dilemma, presently things could go either way. China had recently fired 2 missiles as a warning to the USA, and since then things have been going in a completely different direction. Even a global pandemic hasn't deterred the state to exert their presence and influence in the ocean, which just again reiterates how pivotal the region is. For states that apprehend the threat that arises out of China becoming too predominant in the region, and for China, obviously, due to its energy security concerns, which is going to continue for a long time.
Thank you, Sidra, for adding light on China's relationship with Indo-Pacific region. So our last presenter for the day is Sandhya Rani, a PhD graduate from Jawaharlal Nehru University. She is talking today on Nepal's foreign policy for India and China vis-a-vis hydropower cooperation.
So as you can see in the slide, my topic name is Nepal's foreign policy for India and China vis-a-vis hydropower cooperation. So first of all, I would like to throw a light on hydropower progress at global level, which you can see as a it's one of the world's largest source of renewable electricity generation, when 15.9% of global electricity was produced by it, according to the report mentioned by IEA 2019. And even non-renewable sources such as like fossil fuels and nuclear, you can see that its contribution is 74.4%. Then we come to renewable, that is other renewable sources, which are like biomass or others, solar energy and wind energy, which accounts for 9.7% of it. Then the other point is in 2018, China has been very progressive, and it has generated 1,292 gigawatt, putting behind the US on third rank, which it was earlier on first, and then Brazil on second rank. Now, when we look at Nepal's hydropower potential, it's about 83 gigawatt, where 42 gigawatt is technically and economically feasible. However, we can say that with much of abundance of hydropower worldwide and in Nepal, there is a huge shortage of electricity in Nepal, which I have mentioned in the slide. It's 106 kilowatt per year per person in Nepal, and then in India, and then in China, it's comparatively more. So, which shows its potential. The next is its new installed capacity by country. The slide just is added you just to show you that it's 8,540 for China by using hydropower only. And then you can see how progressive is Pakistan also. And this data shows that it's not by like thermal power or other sources, but by using hydropower sources. So, and India is 535. So even Pakistan is ahead in this race. So the next slide is this is rank wise. I try to throw light on all South Asian countries, which is from India and then Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, through other sources, which is petroleum, natural gas, and nuclear. We can go in on the next slide now. This is the major hydropower projects in Nepal, where some of it are in progress and some are still going on. But as we know, since this pandemic happened, most of these projects are not moving with their pace actually. So, and then we come to Nepal's hydropower status, where you can see it's 1.1 gigawatt of installed capacity potential it has got through runoff rivers projects and pondage runoff river projects. And then it's but the problematic factor is that though it has this much potential, it's like only out of these all only 92 megawatt is storage, has got a storage facility. And then with the involvement of the private sector, around 2.5 gigawatt actively undergoing construction and 2.4 gigawatt expected to be in line within next coming years. And then I have mentioned few hydropower stations which may vary, but these are all under Nepal's electricity authorities. Major hydropower stations, that is accounts for 11, and then small hydropower stations account for 28, and then independent power producers account for 39. So the data says that 50% of these all stations are controlled by NEA, and then the rest 50% by IPPs. So next. India and Nepal. So the next we see that 148 gigawatt is what hydropower potential of India, and then for this reason a power exchange agreement was 1991 in order to meet the requirements, and where 450 megawatt is being supplying to Nepal. The rest is other agreement also, agreement on electric power trade, cross-border transmission, interconnection and grid connectivity signed on October 21, 2014. This we can go see that, to mention few multi-purpose projects I have mentioned here. Pancheshwar project, which has got potential of 6,480 megawatt, and on Mahakali River. The next is Arun 3 hydropower project, a joint venture that is by Government of India, and Upper Karnali hydropower project, which is 10,800 megawatt. Only 694 megawatt generated, where 92 megawatt is from Kulekni 1 and 2, which is of storage type. And also the debate is there that if it is successfully properly, then proper supply, power supply to Bangladesh will also be given by it. Then we come to China and Nepal, that is West Seti Dam, a project of 1.6 billion project, and one of the largest reservoir dam, and it has got a long history which shows that how projects or what are the reasons why projects are lagging behind. So then it was handed over to China Three Gorges International Corporation in 2012, and to make it a progressive, Nepal also proposed to offer 75% of expenditure, and then by China to show its expenditure only 25%. Even then, this project is not coming into practice actually as of now. Then Buddiganki project, it is still handed over to China Goryachev Group Corporation, and also not now to be part of road initiative BRI. And then is Upper Trishuli 3 Hydropower project construction is started in 2000, a 45 megawatt project, and which when successful, very soon which it would be successful in operation, offering 8% of country's demand. Then I have mentioned the hydropower project, which has got 30 megawatt capacity, installed capacity, and 168.55 gigawatt hour of annual energy. It is at river Bahamdanda of Lamjung under construction. West Jajang Hydropower Construction and Installation Company. Not to forget, why promote hydropower? We can know that through hydropower benefits like long distance electricity transmission across national boundary, promote states governmental cooperation, foster investment in local communities including education, healthcare and services, regional development through the creation of tourism, recreational activities, promotes fisheries, storage infrastructure provided by hydropower reservoir, mitigates risk and possess change such as floods and drought, provides water supply for homes, business and agriculture, boosts to economic growth and jobs, employs a reported 1.8 million workers worldwide, low carbon technology which helps to offset the carbon emissions and pollutions. It delivers greater regional connectivity in distribution and transport network. And we can say that Nepal's foreign policy, the way forward is to harness the benefits by harmonizing electricity laws in the future, regulations and policies with those of the other countries, create cross-border electricity infrastructure for energy, take new steps to add generation capacity to make additional supply, and implementation of the future agreements. These countries can be supportive to each other. The next is like focusing on economic development and prosperity for journey towards happy Nepali and prosperous Nepali. This is what we can say, that Nepal between the two Asian countries, India and China, is trying to practice for its national interest. Then the next foreign policy is balanced foreign policy with India and China, urging to invest in Nepal through its hydropower projects. Other last point is neighborhood policy for relations of mutual benefit. That is, all these countries would get benefit if they be supportive to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandhya, for this wonderful presentation on Nepal's foreign policy for India and China hydropower cooperation. Let me add a few from my end regarding this. Hydropower is the baseline source of energy for Nepal. Similarly, hydropower is a national priority project in Nepal, and we have a very friendly environment for investment in hydropower projects in Nepal. But Nepal being located in between two major countries, China and India, we have a major exposure with India rather than China in case of hydropower development. We have a lot of investment, technology transfer, and many things from India as compared to China. When we talk about hydropower project development in Nepal, we have technology transfer and electromechanical equipments being purchased from China rather than concrete investment in hydropower project. So there is a wide avenue open for investment and project development in Nepal in hydropower sector from China.
Ma'am, I missed a few lines actually, but I just would like to say that if it is the bit China, Nepal and India, like they have got a cultural linkage, and from time to time there is a foreign policy relation between both of these countries. So in order to present this hydropower collaboration presentation, I would just prefer that this prospect can play a very positive act as a positive lead to promote the foreign policy of both these countries in the coming time. So that's all, ma'am, I would like to add. So if both the countries are positive and they see their future in this, then it's not a one-side prospect, but it will be a win-win proposal for both of these countries. So that's
right.
All.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for this wonderful presentation and ideas sharing regarding this energy scenario and the possibility between India, Nepal, and China. Thank you.
Distinguished chair, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the 7th session. It is my honor to present the vote of thanks on behalf of NIIC to all those who have graced us with your presence and contributed their immense and important part to make this event a resounding success. First of all, we would like to express a profuse gratitude and sincere thanks to Ms. Pooja Dahal for agreeing to chair and moderate the session today. Thank you so much, ma'am. Our sincere is also extended to all our speakers who have been a part of this event and delivered such a comprehensive and convincing presentation. We are really honored with all the speakers today. Thank you for coming aboard with us. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations too. Finally, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for our audience who have participated in the webinar and those who are watching us live today on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your invaluable time and attention. Thank you for making the session so productive. We are truly honored to have you all with us this evening, and we hope to stay connected in future as well. It's a great, great pleasure. Please join us for the next session. Thank you so much.